prepared for having their faces scanned to use social media.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Tonight we have a very special guest. He is a entrepreneur, businessman, politician, freedom activist, and he founded Freedom Train International. Jim Ferguson, welcome.
Well, Kofy, thank you so much. What a great introduction, and lovely to be here. Great to see you again.
Likewise, it's an honor to have you. So thank you so much for coming back on. You're fresh off your trip from Moldova, I believe. You came back from the Iron Curtain. You got the Iron Curtain experience, but we'll get into that in a moment. I want to ask you. So you're obviously a businessman. You know, you're an entrepreneur. But how did you get into activism, and what was the catalyst for you to founding Freedom Train International?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been in politics and fought the general election, European elections in 2019, and then, of course, the pandemic hit. I was a very serious political candidate, and when the pandemic hit, of course, it just shut everything down. The lockdowns happened. I saw many business colleagues desperately trying to fight back against it. I had bought a little farm about 14 years before this all happened. But I'd been too busy to run it myself. I had it managed. So I went back to the farm, started to put up new fences and gates and bring in new livestock, that type of thing, kept myself busy. And I knew if I spoke out that Jack Dorsey and the old regime on Twitter would have crucified me. I had a little account that I was told to create, and that was in May 2019. I ran it for 6 months, got to the dizzy heights of 2,800 followers. Pandemic hit. I knew if I spoke out, I would have been thrown to the wolves. So I didn't. I just kept myself busy, kind of working away, doing the things I did. But that whole experience really upset me. It made me very angry because I could see the red flags, the psychological operations that were going on with the whole scamdemic. And then when Elon Musk bought it over, not long after that, maybe a few months, I was out with the dogs, walking across the fields, and Twitter just flashed into my mind, and I thought, oh yeah, I should probably do something. I should probably just get rid of it because I'm not going to use it again. Made a coffee, sat down, went to the delete button, and then I thought, I wonder if there's anybody still following me. So I went and had a quick sneaky look, and there was still 1,800 people in there. And I thought it would be a bit rude just to delete the account. So I decided I would say goodbye to everybody. But I changed my mind at the last minute, and that's when everything changed. Because the response was immediate. People said, Jim, it's great to see you back. What are you doing? What do you think of this? cut a long story short, Kofy, the channel exploded. And here we are. I'm doing things I never, ever thought I would end up doing. And Freedom Train International came as a direct result of that. So briefly, I was invited to the United States to speak on stage across 8 different states, from North Dakota all the way down to Alabama. And when I got back to London, 10 days later, I got invited to Ottawa in Canada, and I met Christine Anderson, Eva Vlaardinbroek from the Netherlands, and all of the leaders of the Freedom Trucker Convoy, Tamara Lich, Chris Barber, Harold Juncker, and a lot of military veterans who were involved as well. And I came back after that short trip there with the determination to do something, because words are easy, but action is what's required. And I built Freedom Train International over a period of 15 months. I reached out, I didn't launch it at that point, I just built it. And I built networks across the United States, hundreds and hundreds of Zoom calls. I was doing 7 to 8 Zoom calls per day, 7 days a week. I threw myself into it. And we launched it in February 2024. And it just blew my mind, because we have hundreds of thousands of members. We've massive following around the world. We are now the largest and fastest growing freedom movement in the world. And our primary mission is to unite patriots globally. And here we are.
You know, when I look at the UK, I scratch my head. I was there 25 years ago. It's been a long time. And my impression there that it's a very secular society. And I'm curious to get your thoughts, because I know that you're a deeply religious man. What it's like, I would imagine maybe it's gotten even more secular over the last 25 years. What it's like for you as someone that's deeply religious, living in a country that, you can correct me on this, maybe has turned its back on Christianity.
Well, it absolutely has. The importance of Judeo-Christianity cannot be emphasized enough. And we see people who are out preaching on the streets now being arrested, taken away in handcuffs by the police for doing something that we've done for many hundreds and hundreds of years. The Magna Carta, freedom of speech, the freedom to express your religious beliefs. And that's now all under attack. And we see this not just in the United Kingdom, but we see it in Ireland. We see it across the European continent. And I was speaking about this very thing, actually, as well as the importance of European unity around the world within patriotic movements, because it is incredibly important that people can express themselves and practice their faith without religious persecution. But in the United Kingdom, under Keir Starmer, who is the Prime Minister, it is now a very, very serious concern for all of us who have got faith and religious conviction.
So because, you know, in your country, essentially, you know, people are getting arrested over Facebook posts. I believe there's hundreds of people that are in jail over Facebook's posts, social media posts. Are you in touch with any of these people?
Yeah, I mean, I know some of them who were visited in their homes by, you know, loads and loads of police. A very intimidating way for people to have to go about their business. And yet, although they were arrested and some of them put in prison for Facebook or memes or things they've posted online, they were really just freedom of expression that was being used. Now, some of the things that were done were way over the top. Custodial sentences imposed. Our friends in America can't believe what is going on here. J.D. Vance, the vice president, spoke about this very thing at the security conference in Munich. He's outraged. He's horrified at what's going on, not just in the UK, but across in Germany, in France, across Europe as well. And if he basically said, look, America is founded on the right to assemble and the right to you know, express your faith and speak out. And if you want to do business with the United States, you need to understand that you cannot be censoring and oppressing your people. People have a right to say what they want to say, and of course the things that have been said are not extreme. They're just really ordinary Brits who are being oppressed for expressing concerns about mass illegal immigration, for example, and the concerns that that's having on our society. These are not extremists. These are just ordinary everyday Brits. And it's the same in the European Union as well. Ordinary people just concerned raising these concerns, being punished very, very severely for it, while the real criminals are being given very light sentences or just no sentences at all. And we're talking about very, very serious criminal activity. So it's like a two-tier justice system in the United Kingdom right now.
They even arrested an elderly man. I believe either he or his wife one of them was terminally ill. They came at an odd hour, the police, and they arrested them because it was the husband that was arrested, expressed some opposition to the Palestinian flag being hung up in his street. I mean, this is just next level Orwellian dystopian stuff in the UK. Do you think that the UK may have gotten to that situation as a result of America's power being reduced across the world, particularly under Joe Biden?
Well, I think there's always a factor in that. Joe Biden was a dreadful American president. In fact, I don't even think he knew where he was half the time. I think there was another power behind him. There's a lot of speculation that Obama actually served a third term. It was just that it was done behind the scenes. And of course, there's a lot of things now coming out about Obama committing acts of treason, in particular as it relates to President Trump and his re-election and during the time that he was president. The AutoPen scandal, the whole thing about whether Joe Biden was able to pass and to sign off presidential pardons, for example, for the likes of Dr. Fauci and others, is now under scrutiny. But yes, I think America was impacted under Biden and, the Clinton involvement with that side of things as well. So Obama was the architect of America's destruction and downfall. He has a lot to answer for. And of course, that has had an effect in the United Kingdom as well. But I think that at least they saw a good result in America with the re-election of Donald Trump. He was in Scotland there. I wasn't here. I was over in Moldova. But,
just missed each other.
Yeah, it's probably just as well, actually. I don't play golf too well. It's a very expensive round for me. I always lose. All my balls go off, sliced off onto the...
And you didn't choose to go to London. You went to Scotland.
Well, his mother's Scottish, and from the Highlands, from the islands. And he has a deep appreciation of the United Kingdom. Both he and Elon Musk have a big interest in what's going on in the UK. And we appreciate that, as Brits, we appreciate that. We have a big following on our own show. From many hundreds of thousands of Americans follow us, and Canadians, of course, as well. So we appreciate that. We're glad that he did come to Scotland. And we wish him and his administration well.
So, Jim, you were glad, but I wanted to play that video just due to a technical glitch. I can't. But I was watching a video with Donald Trump standing there with Keir Starmer and Mrs. Starmer. And it appeared that Mrs. Starmer was attending a funeral. What do you make of that? Was she at a funeral?
Yeah, well, maybe it's the future funeral of Keir Starmer's political career. I think there is no misunderstanding. Trump knows what he's dealing with. He's dealing with a very weak globalist administrator. He's not a leader. He's not a prime minister. But Donald Trump is a real leader, and he can recognize that weakness in Starmer. He is also concerned about the fact that Starmer probably cannot be trusted. And you've got to remember, our nations are part of the Five Eyes Alliance. This is this intelligence, high-level intelligence mechanism that incorporates Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the United States, and the United Kingdom. And Starmer is very closely aligned to the European globalists. I mean, there's no question of it, which means that if he's part of the intelligence sharing networks, what is being discussed out with the Five Eyes Alliance within the European globalist orders? And I would imagine that there's quite a lot. So there's a trust issue now with Starmer. I don't think he's going to last for too long. Even his own side realize he's just not fit for purpose. But the big problem is there will be another globalist infiltrator ready to take his place. That's the problem now with the uniparty system. And I know you guys have got that down under as well, where you have the conservative model. Then you've got, in the UK, we call it the Labour Party. They're very far left. They're nothing like what they used to be. But both Conservatives and Labour, the two main parties in the political realms now in the United Kingdom, are pretty much one and the same. they're no longer really conservative or Labour as it used to be. They're just a globalist mouthpiece pursuing globalist policies. And President Trump knows that. He sees through it. And I'm quite certain he would have his own opinions about that. But yeah, Mrs. Starmer wasn't looking very happy, was she?
To say the least. You mentioned that the Conservative Party in the UK, the Tories, are pretty much Labour light, and we have, as you indicated, the same problem in Australia. So that means that Conservatives and Libertarians, the people that are right of centre, have been marginalised and alienated, and they've been forced to look for other avenues, maybe even vote for smaller parties. Do you think that could also lead to an increased radicalisation of people because they feel alienated and sidelined? Do you think that people are becoming more radicalized and we'll see more extreme versions of right-wing parties in the future?
Well, there's always that possibility. I can tell you don't know this because it's only literally quite recently, just recently happened. But I was good friends with somebody called Ben Habib, who was a member of the Brexit Party at the same time as me. He was a very, very successful and is a very successful businessman in London here, but he also was a member of the European Parliament representing London as well. And he was quite a senior player within the Brexit Party himself. And I always remember him as I walked down the corridors of power in London. He would always stop and speak to me and say, "Hey, how you getting on, Jim? You know, what's happening?" And he didn't have to do that. That to me meant a lot to me, but he did it to others as well. And I think that's a sign of a real good leader. And what he did was he launched Advance UK, which is a brand new political party, and he's deeply patriotic. I had actually arranged to meet with him the very day after that he did the launch, and I've joined Advance UK as a member, but I was invited to also become part of the college, Advance UK College. And what that is a body of 100. And I was the first to join that. I was the first to go through the vetting process. I was the first to be accepted into that. And that will set policy going forward for defence, immigration, healthcare, all of the things that we need to look at. But that's a very important position. And also, the Advanced UK College will hold the executive to account. So the structure means that if the leaders deviate, if they go rogue, well, the Advanced UK College can remove them from those positions. So there's a lot of responsibility being part of the college. I take it very seriously. I just had a phone call with a very senior person within the party just before I came on with you, and there's a lot happening, a lot of great things happening. So I think that I know that, and I'm not revealing any secrets here, because when I did the interview with Ben Habib, we talked about it, but Elon Musk is in communication with Ben Habib directly. Oh. Elon Musk has reposted out content from my show in the past, as has Donald Trump. Just a few weeks ago. Yeah, it was. I was
got a very large following.
Well, there are other accounts that are much larger than me, but I was reporting on him, on Donald Trump being in Saudi Arabia. I wrote a very complimentary piece because I genuinely felt he was doing a fantastic job. I don't know whether it was Donald Trump himself that picked up on it or maybe one of his team, but it was reposted on Truth Social, and I believe he's only ever reposted other content like that once before. So I was the second time that actually happened. But I've always been an admirer of the administration. I think he's got a good team there. We recognize the importance of the transatlantic alliance, that deep bond between the United Kingdom and our friends in America. And I have a deep love and appreciation of our American patriots and friends and allies. So yes, that did happen. And I think it's a question of watching this very closely, because Ben Habib has the skills and the talents. And I think the team that he's building, and I'm kind of part of that process now. I'm going to be involved, as I was in the Brexit Party, in recruiting, background screening and vetting other prospective parliamentary candidates. I'm not currently a parliamentary candidate. That's not my role. My role is to help to set policy and assist the party in any way I can, just as a member. But at some future point, we will be fielding parliamentary candidates. I wouldn't be at all surprised if I'm not involved in that process at some future point, whether it's just assist or what have you. But yeah, I think Advance UK could do very well. The membership is roaring, it's soaring. Once again, people want leadership that they can trust. And instead of voting for a party that's the lesser of two evils or the lesser of three evils, you can actually vote for a party you fully believe in now. And that's a big difference.
That was actually my next question. Are you going to run? But it's up in the air. You're definitely going to be involved in some way or another, right?
Oh, I'll definitely be involved in one way or another, but I think it's early days. I mean, the next election will be 2029, unless there's a collapse in government. You never know what could happen. Seems like it, doesn't it? Yeah, it feels like it's never going to come. But I do know from experience that time passes very quickly, especially when you're busy. So it's a question now for me to. I've committed myself to Advance UK to assist them in every way I can. There's going to be a lot of things happening. There's going to be live streams. There's going to be more interviews. There's going to be a lot of things happening, and I'm going to be assisting sort of behind the scenes a little bit there as well. But as we get closer to the general election, I'm very happy to step forward and to step up and do whatever the party wants me to do. So we will wait and see how that all plays out. But it's gotten off to a really good start, Kofy, and people need that new option to vote for a party that really puts the interests of British people first, and I fully endorse that, fully support it.
Now, I want to circle back to Keir Starmer. He said something very odd when he was standing next to Donald Trump, and Mrs. Starmer was there in Scotland, and he touted his anti-immigration credentials. This is Keir Starmer once again, folks. He claimed this is a guy that's known for open border policies, and he's claiming that he deported tens of thousands of people. And not long before he made that announcement, that odd announcement, I want to get your thoughts on that. There was this clip that went viral of a gentleman from Pakistan telling these two British guys, "We are here to rule over you." So there's an interesting, juxtaposition there between the two. So which version of reality is true? Is it Starmer? I mean, I just found it very odd because he never expressed any interest in kicking illegals out of the UK. So what do you make of his statement?
Look, Starmer's whole career was involved in defending the rights of illegal immigrants coming to this country when he was a lawyer. So, his credentials that's his credentials. He is not a patriot. He does not like this country. He is on record on television of choosing Davos over Westminster. He prefers the World Economic Forum to Westminster. He prefers hanging out with globalists to patriotic British people. So the second version is the most accurate. A lot of the people that are coming into this country are not coming here because they like the country or they like our Christian heritage or Christian Judeo values. They're coming here to take over. And make no mistake about it, we face an existential crisis, not just in the United Kingdom, but across the whole of Western Europe. And you guys down under in Australia and New Zealand also are involved in this. Although I talk about the West and I primarily talk about European issues, I'm very conscious, having lived and worked in Australia in particular, I love the Aussies. And I understand that you're going through the same globalist infiltration and dictatorial type tyranny that we're all facing. So, yeah, make no mistake about it, we have not got another 25 to 35 years to fix the problems. We've maybe only got another 3 or 4 years at best. And remember, 2030, UN Agenda 2030 is fast approaching. This is the year that these globalists have said all of these extreme measures, from 15-minute smart cities, digital ID, central bank digital currencies, you will own nothing and be happy, you will eat insects and do exactly what we tell you to do. That's fast approaching. 2030 is their ground zero year. It's not that far away, Kofy, and we must activate and push back now and unite countries like Hungary and Romania and all these other wonderful nations together as one cohesive force. And indeed, I'm going to the inauguration. I've been invited officially there to go to Poland. I'll be heading there shortly for that event as well. And they've got a great country, Poland, very strong, patriotic country. I have huge respect for the Poles. In fact, there was many of them there, members of parliament and others with me in Moldova at the Making Europe Great Again conference. So it was wonderful to see old faces and new ones that I hadn't met before. Great people.
Now, I'm going to get to that conference in a moment, but I'm curious to know that you're not a mind reader, you're not a psychic, but what on earth was going on through Keir Starmer's mind when he said that he takes a tough stance in immigration? I mean, that's just a complete 180 flip from when he was. Was he trying to impress Donald Trump? Was he trying to get a better tariff deal?
Yeah, he was trying to sort of say the things that he thought Donald Trump would like to hear. Donald Trump's not stupid enough to realize he means any of it. It was the same when he was sitting in the Oval Office when he went across to see President Trump, where he talked about, he was challenged by J.D. Vance again on freedom of speech and censorship. And he turned around and said, oh, we certainly don't censor anybody and everybody's free to say what they want. Absolute lies. I mean, there's no other way to call it. They were lying. He was lying. And I think they knew he was lying, and everybody else knows he's lying. So when he talks about being concerned about mass illegal immigration, of course he's lying. They could stop it. The Royal Navy doesn't have what it used to have back in the day, but it has enough to immediately halt those boats that are flooding across the channel. They can hide behind the ECHR, European Human Rights, all they want. If they had the will to do it, if they had the desire to do it, it could be stopped literally within 24 hours and no further immigration takes place. And so, yeah, no, he is being extremely disingenuous and very dishonest when he says things like that. Nobody believes Keir Starmer anymore. The mask has slipped and Donald Trump knows exactly what he's dealing with him. He's not dealing with somebody that likes America or likes him. He's dealing with a globalist infiltrator that has no good intentions for the British people.
I want to ask you one more thing about the UK before we move on to your Moldova trip. Very curious to know this. The British royal family, so it's not just your government that's woke. I could be corrected on this. King Charles seems to endorse quite a few of the globalist policies. And I know that patriotic Brits, they're at least the majority. Again, you can correct me on this. I don't live there. Are loyal to the monarchy. So how do you reconcile that?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
well, I mean, I met the Queen. I've been invited to royal garden parties in the past. I've met other members of the royal family. Huge respect for her. I have a huge respect for the institution of the monarchy. But King Charles is actually in danger of breaking his contract with the British people because of what he's said and what he's not said. He is very well aware of what's going on. And you have to also remember, Kofy, that there is a long association and history, deep association with Klaus Schwab, who is the founder of the World Economic Forum. And anybody can check and verify this for themselves. They can go on to Google or any other search engine, and they will see pictures going back to when he was Prince Charles, a young man in his 20s and 30s. So that's been a long association. So King Charles is very much bought into the whole fake climate agenda, the whole net zero, the whole globalization. And we are witnessing something quite truly remarkable, because a lot of British people, yeah, they like the royal family, they like the institution of the monarchy, and we support that. But we don't support people who are serving in those very important roles who are not putting British interests first. The Commonwealth nations have been there and around and are very loyal. The British Empire did a lot of great work around the world, but that has paled into insignificance now, largely due to people, unfortunately, taking the position that King Charles has taken. The respect for the royal family has waned, it has plummeted, and there's a deep concern that he is not fighting for the Brits any longer. He is fighting for a globalist agenda and has been accused of such by many, many people. So there's a big difference between King Charles and his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, who had such huge respect and really never put a foot wrong. She did and carried out her duties admirably during her long reign as Queen. So there's a huge disparity between what we're seeing now within the monarchy in the United Kingdom, and it's not good.
Do you think if the King Charles continues on this trajectory, do you think there will be some sort of constitutional crisis? Now, I don't expect you to predict the future. One can't predict what's going to happen in the future, but what are your thoughts? I mean, wouldn't be the first time you would have had such a crisis. I believe, you had a crisis with Oliver Cromwell when he replaced another king named King Charles, and for a brief time you had a republic, or a commonwealth, so to speak. So do you think history might repeat itself?
Well, history has a habit of repeating itself, and if we don't learn from history, we are bound to make those same historical mistakes. I think that nothing is off the table when it comes to the serious nature of what we're witnessing, not just in this country of the United Kingdom, but actually across Europe and the entire world. There is a shift taking place. People are waking up. We are indeed winning the information war. And that became very clear when we landed in Moldova as well. And we can go on to that shortly. But to answer your question, I don't think anything's off the table. I know, having spent a lot of time in Canada, that there is a growing movement, an awakening, and an awareness there that the royal family are not doing, the monarchy are not doing anything really for the Canadian people either. So it wouldn't at all surprise me to see other Commonwealth nations, take that similar view. Why be connected to something that doesn't serve us, that isn't reciprocal? You've got to remember, respect works both ways. And even in the United Kingdom, that feeling of abandonment and rejection by the monarchy is only too real. And of course, I know that affects a lot of people in Australia as well.
And moving on to your trip to Moldova. So as I mentioned at the start of the podcast, you went behind the Iron Curtain, and you seem to have gotten the full Iron Curtain experience, even though the Soviet Union ceased to exist over 30 years ago. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it was my first time in Moldova, and I'd done a lot of research, a lot of the history behind it, and how things have come to be the way they are. But the Moldovan people are incredible people. I mean, I was made very, very welcome there. But I went to Chisinau, which is the capital of Moldova. It's a large city. It has a population of about 800,000 people. It's not the biggest city in the world, but it's a big city for Moldova. Incredible people. Moldova is the poorest of all the European countries, and there's quite an interesting diverse population there. There are about 10 entire villages, small towns, that are ghost towns now because of people leaving and going abroad. So there's a lot of challenges that Moldova faces, but there are incredibly talented, gifted, good people in Moldova. But not long after I landed, when I'd gone there slightly early, just simply because of the way things had worked out. So I was one of the very first to arrive, and got back to the hotel, met a member of the European Parliament that I'd met previously. We were talking, and at this point everything was fine. But then the following day, we started to hear that certain people from Italy, Romania, senators, we're talking members of the European Parliament, parliamentarians, senators, had been prevented from entering the border. Now, some had been traveling by car, some had been traveling in convoy through the checkpoints. Others were flying directly into Chisinau. And an American friend was not a member of Parliament, just an American citizen, but he's very active. Brian Briggs, and he was stopped. He was his passport was removed. He was detained in the customs holding area at Chisinau Airport. He was told he had to fly back to America. He wasn't going to be allowed into the country. I think they said something along the line of public safety, public order, a threat to national security, or words to that effect. His story was amazing because he was then told, no, you have to purchase a ticket and you have to leave. So he did. and then they changed their mind and they wouldn't let him leave, and then he was allowed to purchase. So he ended up sitting on the runway about to fly out, and then he was taken off the plane and taken back into the holding area. This was after he'd bought 3 tickets by this time, 3 tickets to America. And they said, "Oh, we're terribly sorry. The government's made a terrible mistake. You're free. You're free to stay. You're free to come in."
Oops.
Right. Now, this came because I spoke to him at length. I spoke to Brian at length about this. In fact, we're going to be doing an interview. We just didn't have time to do it at that point. But he had contacted the American embassy, and they took this very, very seriously because he had done nothing wrong. You know, he'd done nothing wrong. He's part of a delegation that was coming. There were other Americans there who I know, who I've met many times, who were able to come in and didn't have an issue. But yeah, he was pretty upset. He was actually detained nonstop for 52 hours.
Wow.
He had no sleep. He had. I mean,
wow, 52 hours.
52 hours straight. So by the time he got to the conference, he walked into the conference to rapturous applause. He came up on stage. He explained what had happened, and there was pretty much a standing ovation for him. But, you know, many didn't get through. There was those from Greece. There was those from Italy. There was those from Romania. There were many other people that didn't get to come in, serving members of parliament, senators, with diplomatic passes, diplomatic passports. This was very telling, Kofy, because it showed that the Moldovan authorities they are globalists. They are very much aligned to the globalist agenda, and they want to become part of the EU, the European Union. But they've probably caused real damage to their reputation by conducting themselves in this way, because there was no marches, there was nothing that could be perceived or construed as being subversive in terms of activity. It was a conference talking about the importance of European unity. And yes, there were subjects like illegal immigration and those types of topics, and net zero and the Green New Deal, that type of topics were being discussed at length. But these were only words. They were only subjects. For them to react in this way was very telling. And I think they are worried and fearful of the people waking up to the real truth. But by doing what they did, they caused huge focus to come to bear. And I think there will most definitely be diplomatic ramifications later on down the line because of what they did.
I think you also mentioned in one of your videos as the presence of secret police where you were.
Yes. Well, I arrived on the Friday. On the Saturday, still waiting for other people to arrive, but they were starting to come in, and a few of us had got together. We were sitting in the hotel having some dinner, and when I arrived there already was a large, overt police presence in terms of uniformed police all around the hotel, and you know, they were sitting there, their lights were flashing, that there was police patrolling up and down outside the hotel. But on the Saturday evening, we saw secret police coming in. They had the earpieces in. It was quite clear who they were. There was a specialist unit that pulled up outside the front of the hotel that had what looked like recording equipment in it, surveillance type equipment in it.
Sounds like
they weren't trying to hide
1980s.
They weren't even trying to hide it, you know, and I think part of it was almost a way to intimidate the delegates. So we were sitting there, and then they started to come into the hotel. They were stationed outside where the lifts were going up into the accommodation. They were observing who was coming in and out. Every time we went outside, we were being observed. And then they started to come in closer to where we were sitting. So there was 2 that were observed with the earpieces in, just sitting not far away from where we were sitting having our meal. And we wondered if at some point they were going to raid the hotel and maybe even arrest everybody that was there as part of the delegation. It was a factor. It was a thought. And I was having dinner with another American colleague. And when he started to see what was happening, he says, right, okay. He says, this is time to sort of, you know, let my colleagues in America know what's going on. So he went to make a phone call, and he's very well connected to the administration and the people back in the States. And he came back after about 30 minutes and he said, right, okay, there's people on standby. They're about 2 hours away. They will come here and this will be sorted out if it's needed. So there was American units on standby ready to come to certainly help the Americans. I don't know if they would have helped us, but we're friends and allies to America. So I said to him, he says, don't you worry, Jim. He says, we'll take care of it. We got your back. We've got your back. And that's the great thing about America. America's always had our backs, and we've always had America's back. So that became very evident, even with us sitting in the hotel watching all these secret police going around. And it was quite intimidating. Very, very interesting. But yeah, it was like totally something out of the Soviet era. It was just unbelievable. But the next day, the conference went ahead because there was a real worry that the conference might be stopped. But my contacts within Romania started to come in and great people that I'd met previously there. When I was there for the presidential elections a few months ago for George Simeon and many of those people I've become good friends with. So they started to arrive and the conference went ahead. It was a great conference, I have to say. I was one of the guest speakers there on the second day. So everything went out. Everything went well. Everything went fine. But, it was an experience that makes you understand and realize how dystopian a world we have entered into, where freedom of speech has been challenged, even by elected members of government or parliament and, acting senators, members of the European Union themselves, being prevented from coming in just to talk about European identity and European unity. It was bizarre. But I live to tell the tale. I left. I'm literally just back into the UK. When I got to the airport, I was sort of wondering if I was being followed. I didn't see any evidence of that. I think they have, but I do know that a British colleague, and I won't say who that was, but there was a British colleague of mine who did drive all the way actually from England. He actually drove all the way to Moldova. He'd been there many times. He knows the way, yeah. But when he got into Moldova, he was followed for over 100 kilometers at high speed. There was a couple of vehicles that tried to box him in. Now, we don't know who they were. He didn't stop to find out. He legged it. He was driving quite a fast car, and he took off because of the way they tried to come in and do what they were going to do. He didn't know whether they were going to try and steal the car or cause harm to him. He had a lot of very expensive camera equipment in the car, and the car he was driving was a pretty expensive car. So he legged it. But they chased him. They chased him for 100 kilometers, but he was able to get away. So, yeah, there was some very odd things happened to a lot of us over there in Moldova. But, yeah, we all live to tell the tale, as it were.
Absolutely. It sounds like they're going from the Soviet Union to the European Union. So not much of a muchness.
Yeah, not much of a difference there. It looks that's the way it's going. I mean, the European Parliament is a great parliament, but they're the only lawmakers in the world that cannot pass any laws unless the unelected bureaucrats in the EU Commission say so. Well, that's not what I call democracy. That's why I fought for British independence with the Brexit Party against that, because I didn't believe that unelected bureaucrats should be interfering with the electoral process and the passing of new laws by those elected to do that very thing. But yeah, it's pretty undemocratic in Brussels, I have to say.
The way you describe it, it sounds like Iran. They've got a parliament, but they have the mullahs presiding over. That's the exact same system.
It's the same system, yeah, exactly.
And tell me, so you mentioned you were in Romania, and I've been following you, and you were in the midst of some political turmoil there. A lot of people, when they think of countries like Moldova and Romania, and look, it's just a misconception that people have, but they see those countries as, most people haven't either heard of them, or if they have heard of them, they view them as backwaters. But why are these countries important? There's also Hungary as well. Why are these countries significant and play an important role on the world stage?
Well, that's a fantastic question that you've asked, a very important question to answer. Look, I said to you earlier that in my opinion, in Ben Habib of Advanced UK's opinion, and in many people's opinions, we are facing an existential crisis in Western civilization. And I really do mean that. And I spoke about this at length at the conference. But the reason that Moldova is so important, and Romania and Poland and Hungary, is because they haven't seen the erosion of national identity to the same degree that France has seen this, or Germany, or Sweden. Sweden's now the rape capital of the European Union. It's horrific what's going on there. So these countries still have strong Christian Judeo heritage. They've still got strong belief systems. They understand the importance of families, good education, not LGBT trans ideology propaganda that's orchestrated by the globalist pyramid structures pushing this. These are not grassroots movements. Those are globalist inspired institutions to destroy what it means to be human. Let's call it for what it is. They're all about transhumanism. They're all about changing what it means to be a human being. And by attacking what it means to be a human and to have that human identity through the family union and the institutions of marriage, they are weakening society. But Hungary and Moldova and Romania and Poland are the last bastions of Western civilization that are taking an active stand against it. And those of us that believe in those same values understand why we must support the people in Romania and Hungary and Poland and Moldova to resist this creeping globalization that is coming in ever greater ways, and to support them to take that final stand, if you like, and push back against it, to protect our culture, our faith, our heritage, and perhaps even more importantly, our history and our future. And I called for this when I was in Moldova, talking about the threats of mass illegal immigration, and what that is doing and why it's happening. And I've said that we need a new Charlemagne. And I do believe we do.
It's interesting because these countries, we're talking about history repeating itself. I'm not sure about Moldova, but Romania, Poland, Hungary, they fought off the invading Muslim Islamic armies. They were like at the front line protecting the rest of Europe. So it seems like we're getting a repetition of history. And I do find it odd, that the globalists on the one hand are pushing LGBTQ agendas, but then they're also, they appear to be pushing and promoting and advancing radical Islam, which seems to be a direct contradiction to the woke agenda. What's going on there?
Well, it's about understanding what is happening. So the reason that they are pushing the sort of radical Islamic agenda is as a way to destroy, intimidate those cultures, those Christian Judeo heritage that we see all across not just the United Kingdom, but in Ireland and, of course, in other European nations as well. So that is being used to intimidate, to destroy Christianity in particular here across Europe. But they have no love of it. They're simply using it as a mechanism, as a tool. Those mass illegal numbers of migrant men that are flooding into our respective nations are simply being used to destroy. So once that happens, the technocrats within the globalist orders will then crack down on them. They are being used as a tool to destroy national sovereignty, patriotic identity. And that's why people who carry the Union flag in the United Kingdom are being arrested and called extremists or far right. To carry our national flag is not a form of extremism. It is a form of patriotic sovereignty and identity. What's wrong to carry the Aussie flag? But it's the same in Australia. It's the same in New Zealand, right? So this is what they're doing. They are using radical Islam to destroy Christian values and territories. And of course, the radical Islamic agenda is there. They're very happy to come in. They're not coming to integrate, to assimilate. They're coming to take over by their way of it. We've heard many of them talk about that. The clip you were referring to earlier on was talking exactly about that very thing. What they don't realize is that once they've achieved what the globalists want them to achieve, which is the destruction of Christian values and Christian civilization in the West in particular, they will then be put under the thumb, and they will then have their day, the same as we're having our day. So the ones who are orchestrating this are the globalist orders. And people say, well, why would they do this? Why would Klaus Schwab, working in partnership with King Charles, working in partnership with these other different globalist orders, do this? And well, it's a very simple answer. It's all about control. It's all about power. Because what they want is a one world global system, a new global order that they control. And they have such a disdain for ordinary people, these so-called elites. They are incredibly arrogant. They believe they now have the technology, the systems, the robotics, the artificial intelligence to enact massive controls, and they have a clear date in mind. That date is the year 2030. It's not that far away, 5.5 years thereabouts, and they want all of these measures in place ready for that particular date. Why? Well, we don't know why that particular date matters so much for them. Perhaps it's because they are fearful of something that may happen not long after that particular date. But nevertheless, there are some very interesting things that are happening. So what we are doing in Freedom Train International, we are uniting patriots around the world, but we're also teaching people the importance of not being scared, but being prepared, being able to survive outside the system, if you like, of digital ID, centralized digital currencies, where you don't want to take that particular mark, that particular system, where you can actually survive and thrive outside the system. So we're teaching people about the importance of gold and silver. We're teaching people about food stocks, growing your own fruit and vegetables, rearing your own animals, living independently, and knowing what you're eating, because we don't know. We see talk about mRNA being put into vegetables, foodstuffs, and beef herds, cattle herds. They're very serious about getting mRNA into everybody. I'm very serious about keeping it out of everybody. So there's a battle. There's a battle that is unfolding. We are the resistance. We are the ones who are leading the way in many ways, and we understand the importance of solving a lot of these problems politically. But I've been calling for the churches to get out of the pulpits and into the streets where the people are, to use their faith and to combine both a political and a religious unity that I believe is now necessary to fight for Western civilization as we know it.
You mentioned they have certain dates, certain milestones that they want to reach. I mean, these are very cold, calculating people. Do you think that there's an occult element? Do you think these people that we're dealing with, they're spiritual people, that they've got some kind of religion, or are these just cold-hearted atheists that don't believe in anything?
Oh no, they believe. When we talk about people of faith, that's one thing. People sometimes say they're very spiritual. Well, Lucifer is a spirit. Being spiritual can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. I would say that some of these globalists are true believers in their God, but their God is not the Christian Judeo God that we know. They are very serious about it. Symbology, how they talk about certain things sort of belies just what they are. They are evil, and we've got to call it out for what it is. So I actually can tell you that at the conference there was a number of people that quite clearly said when they were speaking on stage that we are in a spiritual war. There is no question of it. People that push the vaccines, knowing what those vaccines would end up doing, they're not even vaccines. They are mRNA technology that caused great harms, suffering to people, caused many millions of deaths around the world, and still are. They're still being promoted as being safe and effective. They were neither effective nor safe. They were dangerous. And there are those within the eugenics movements tied into the globalist orders that have such a disdain, a hatred almost of what it means to be human, that they want to change the very meaning of humanity, but they also want to get rid of vast numbers of human beings in a depopulation agenda. And I speak to many professors and scientists, epidemiologists, virologists, business people, political leaders, who have been left with no doubt, Kofy, that there is a very dark agenda unfolding, and that was enacted in particular just 4 or 5 years ago. So it's frightening. We have to get people to understand that you have to look evil in the face. You have to take it on. You cannot appease it. There can be no quarter given to evil. Evil will corrupt and destroy wherever it's allowed to corrupt and destroy. But what people don't understand is the great destiny and the incredible power that exists within each of us. When we fight back in spiritual warfare, there is no way they can stand against it. They would like us all to believe that they are ultimately in control, that their dark lord is ultimately in control. But that is not true. That is not true. God is in control, and he uses us to further his own agenda and to fight the good fight. And we must all do that. Wherever we are, in whatever capacity, using whatever talents, skills, and abilities that we have, we must now rise and become the leaders that we're destined to be. And many of us are doing that. But European unity, protecting Western civilization, is a high agenda topic from my point of view. And there's lots of challenges ahead. Many of the nations that we've spoken about, for example, Romania, great traditionalist country, with many historical leaders like Vlad Cepes, that gave rise to the legends of Count Dracula, Vlad Dracula's grandfather. And, you know, he's considered a national hero in Romania, and rightly so. In fact, I'm hoping to go back to make a little bit of a documentary film on Vlad Cepes and his remarkable rise to visit Transylvania and to go to visit the grave of Vlad Cepes. So I'm looking at that. But then you've also got Hungary, another amazing, incredible country. But there have been historical tensions and rivalries between those two wonderful countries that people still remember. And there are areas that we need to try to bring unity together with those two amazing, remarkable countries as well. And I've made no secret of my desire to try to do that. And I'm doing this now in Ireland as well, because I was flown to Ireland specifically to unite the Irish patriots. And that first meeting took place a few weeks ago, and that momentum is now building. I've been asked, because I'm not Irish, I'm a Celtic brother to the Irish people as a Scottish Highlander, but I have no axe to grind with any of the other groups. And I went there. We brought in Irish patriot groups to a meeting, which went incredibly well. And I've agreed to chair that, to bring Irish unity, to build that alliance. And once my job there is done, I will hand that over to them, and they can turn it into a new political alliance and force for Irish unity to fight back against what's going on there as well. So I'm involved in a lot of things, but it's all hard work, but it's good to be involved, to make a difference for people.
And speaking of leadership, Jim, I wanted to ask you about Tommy Robinson. Have you been following the latest developments in relation to him? I understand, I mean, this is a man that just got released from prison after being held for about 18 months. And now I believe, last I heard, he was in hiding as a result of an incident where he was attacked in a subway.
Yes, I saw footage of that. And of course, you know, he's very outspoken. He's a great British patriot. He's called out the things that he's called out over many years and paid a terrible price for it. You know, a lot of people love Tommy and they love his courage, and they love his ability to call out the issues. But yeah, I mean, he's had to go into hiding. He's had to go into. We've followed each other on X for a long time. He's reposted content I put out. I've done the same with him. So yeah, there's a lot of things happening. Once again, the establishment doesn't like him because he is so outspoken, and we hope and pray for his safety and the safety of his family. Absolutely.
It's interesting because I believe he's also got an Irish background. So you were speaking about the Irish before. And he's become a leading figure in the English patriotic movement, has been for well over a decade. So Jim, have you got any final words of wisdom that you would like to leave our audience with before we wrap up for tonight?
Well, what I will say is this, Kofy, that there is no the coming weeks, months, and years. Everybody watching this will find that there will be no position to take a halfway position. You're not going to be able to sit on the fence. You're going to have to be one thing or the other. And you need to be the salt. You need to be the salt and the light that changes things for the better. To fight for our freedom, we have to fight. You have to find your courage and to not be afraid. Fear is how the enemy tries to suck the energy out of us, to intimidate, to bully, to coerce, to frighten people. What we have to say to people is, do not be afraid. As the world gets darker, we get brighter. I know how this all ends, and I know exactly what needs to be done. We just need to get other people to believe and to act on that as well. Get on to freedomtraininternational.org. It has a wealth of information. If you want to know how to prepare yourself and your families and your communities for what lies ahead, freedomtraininternational.org is the way to go. Subscribe, support us, help to fuel the furnace of that freedom train as it thunders down the tracks, and support all the wonderful people like Kofy and your show. And it's a huge honor, I have to say, Kofy, to be on your show with you guys. Not at all. I love the Aussies. I had a wonderful time when I was over there. A bit younger back then. My hair was long. I was bronzed. I used to surf down on the beaches there. It was great fun. Oh yeah. When I wasn't surfing, I was chasing girls. That's how it was. You know, I had a wonderful time in Australia. Love the Aussies, really do. Love the Kiwis, of course. I love people all around the world, but we need to understand we're in the fight of our lives. And what you're doing, Kofy, is remarkable. I applaud you, mate. And love to have you back on our show again. And we had a great interview, great talk. Absolutely. And maybe we can do something after I get back from the inauguration in Poland. There'll be a lot to talk about probably when I come back to that. I'll be heading back into Europe. I've traveled extensively over the last few months, but you know something, it's great to talk to my friends in Australia as well. And I really appreciate you having me on with you. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Now, Jim, in addition to freedomtraininternational.org, people can also follow you on X. I'm sure a lot of the viewers that are going to be watching this are already following you, but if you don't follow, please take the time, take a moment to follow Jim on X. He puts out some really awesome content that's been shared by Elon Musk, by Donald Trump, and many other prominent people. So the links will be in the description below. So please follow the links. Is there anywhere else, any other platforms that you're on?
Well, I do have a small, to be honest, on YouTube. But after my second strike, we'd got 4,000 followers within 2 weeks. It was remarkable. I thought, well, this is easy. We'll have 100,000 in no time. And then they didn't like it. YouTube censor. So I have a Rumble channel. I'll send you the links for that as well. But primarily, I post here on X because it is the only last free speech platform there actually truly is. So you'll find most of my work and commentary goes on to that. And I have to say, I'm very proud of my Aussie followers. They're a great bunch. I have quite a following from Australia as well, Kofy. Thank you for that. And but yeah, at Jim Ferguson UK is where you'll find me.
Awesome. Well, Jim, it's been an honor to have you on, and I really appreciate the fact you're fresh off the flight from Moldova. You must be tired. So thank you so much for coming on and giving us your time.
My absolute pleasure, Kofy. Thank you so much indeed. We'll speak soon.
Thank you for watching, everyone, and God bless.